Hey there! Welcome back to Reddit Dating, best channel for cheating stories. Make sure to like and subscribe the channel for more spicy stories. I saw my wife's previous sex videos. Seeking advice? My wife and I are in our early 30s, and we have 2 children. There will be no children. Based in a huge metropolis somewhere in North America, this company was founded in 2009. We first met at a social event around 1.5 years ago. We began dating almost 1 year ago and have been married for approximately 3 months. We have been together for 3 months at this point. Before we moved in together, my wife was living on her own in a 1-bedroom condo, and I was sharing a room with a friend. We came to the conclusion that I would move into my wife's house and split rent until we could save enough money to move into a larger place, which would be especially important if we had children. In general, our connection has been wonderful. There were no big conflicts. Our personalities are a good match. Our families are friendly with one another. Financially, we are in a secure position. Up until lately, things have been wonderful. My laptop failed around 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I've been using my wife's old laptop in its place. I discovered many old films and images of my wife and her ex-boyfriend on her laptop, which had been stored over a period of several months. I want to emphasize that the most recent one occurred more than a year ago, before we began dating, and that he did not cheat on me. I couldn't stop myself from watching and looking through all of the movies and photographs. I'm truly sorry for what I've done. Despite the fact that I adore my wife and recognize that she has had previous relationships, the images and noises from the videos continue to torment me on a daily basis. Her nude body was entangled with the bare body of another man. The groaning may be heard. The scurrilous remarks, the way she looks at him, the way she speaks to him, etc. I'm having trouble getting it out of my thoughts. It's a question that I'm always answering in my brain. I've been trying to stay away from sexual encounters. I don't have a lot of libido, and the few times we attempted to participate in physical exercise, the visions haunted me, and I was unable to remain awake. My wife is completely unaware that I am watching the vids. I haven't talked to her about it yet, since I'm not sure what I should say in this situation. She hasn't done anything wrong in my opinion. Perhaps the only thing she could have done differently was to erase those films, but I seriously question whether or not she even remembers that those tapes ever existed. Is there anyone else who has been in a similar situation? I want our marriage to be successful and for both of us to be content. I would much appreciate any useful advice or comments you could provide. Update. More than a month ago, I wrote about finding many old films of my wife and her ex-boyfriend on an old laptop, which I later discovered to be true. There have been several requests for an update, and so here it is. I've also posted the original post at the bottom of this page. After putting the films on Reddit for a couple of days, I decided to talk to my wife about them. I simply informed her that I had discovered footage of her and her ex-boyfriend on her laptop. Despite her apparent distress, my wife remained composed and informed me that there is something I should know about which she had not before informed me. So my wife and her ex-boyfriend were together for more than 4 years. They both decided to record themselves having a good time. To begin with, they were simply shooting for their own entertainment and enjoyment. Then they made the decision to make money by posting their movies on amateur porn websites. Over time, my wife and her ex-husband developed a following, and they began releasing videos on a regular basis with the purpose of earning money and growing their fan base. The majority of the videos featured 2 people engaged in various forms of sexual encounters. However, there were a few recordings showing her and her ex-husband, as well as his buddies, having fun. There were also videos of her interacting with various toys on the internet. Even after we were married, my wife continued to make films of herself on her YouTube account. All of the videos have her face blurred out so that people can't know who she is, but I can tell it's my wife just by looking at her physique and listening to her voice. My wife expressed regret to me for not informing me about this before to our marriage. I accepted her apology. Her justification was that she was terrified that I would abandon her if she found out. Despite the fact that she is sorry for keeping it a secret from me, she is not sorry for selling videos. She has earned around $80,000 through the sale of her movies and photographs over the last 2 to 3 years. She wishes to resume publishing videos on YouTube. If I agree, she wants to tape our films and start selling them on her YouTube channel if it is something I am okay with. Otherwise, she intends to continue recording herself for the foreseeable future. My wife is baffled as to why this bothers me so much. According to her, No one will be able to tell it's her. She isn't cheating on anybody. And it's a simple way to save up some additional money on the side. Recently, we began attending couples counseling sessions. My wife has decided to refrain from posting any new films for the time being, but her older videos are still accessible for her admirers to see and purchase. It's one thing to watch old films, but discovering that my wife was involved in amateur pornography has been really tough for me to process. I'm at a loss for what to think about anything nowadays. Despite the fact that she hasn't done anything unlawful, I find it difficult to regard my wife in the same light as I did before I learned this information about her. Is it possible that I'm being overly conservative? I'm in the process of wrecking my life right now. I'm having trouble concentrating at work. I'm just unable to think about anything else right now. Any intelligent input would be much appreciated. Story number 2. My 22-year-old female buddy, who is also a 24-year-old guy, is making me feel uncomfortable. Hello, everyone. I'll make every effort to keep this as brief as possible. This is a one-time account, so if I write anything in the near future using various ages for myself, it'll be because I'd wish to remain anonymous on the internet. I hope everything is okay with you. At the conclusion of the post, there is a TDDR. I have a buddy, 24M, who is plainly interested in me and has been making me feel uncomfortable for a while. We met in October since we were in the same yoga class, and it was a pleasant experience for me. He inquired as to whether or not I was in a relationship, which I was not, and still am not, but that was the only statement he made. After that, we spoke for a few hours until I returned home. Once a month, we've been getting together. In most cases, we would only communicate through text messages to arrange plans to meet up, which would probably occur every 2 weeks at the most, and I must admit that I did not like spending time with him. He is acutely aware of his environment and the people with whom he associates, and he can generally tell when I am not performing at my peak. I appreciate him showing concern for me and bringing it up, but he demands that I tell him everything that's on my mind, since he'd do the same for me if I told him everything. I, on the other hand, do not want to put my faith in him when it comes to the difficulties that are racing through my head. As a consequence, he continues to inquire as to what is on my mind, which disturbs me, but I haven't brought it up. When I returned home for the holidays, something had changed. He began messaging me on a regular basis, telling me how much he missed me, and calling me all kinds of adorable names. I've only seen him once since I returned, during one of my tests, and he brushed up against me in a fun manner. To be really honest, I've been completely ignoring everything. A birthday celebration that one of my friends, whom he does not know, was having, as well as a meetup that I had with a new buddy that I had made, were all invitations he extended to himself. He had to go to work on both occasions, which lessened my anxiety a little. Anyway, it's been 2 weeks since then. Let's fast forward to the day before yesterday. As a result of COVID, I've been quarantined for 10 days, and I tested positive on the 5th day, then again on the 7th, and finally tested negative the day before yesterday. He was quite concerned that I had to isolate myself since he couldn't see me, but after I tested negative, he insisted on seeing me one more, despite my protests. If you've experienced symptoms, you may be aware of how exhausted corona may make you feel, which is why I informed him that I'd like to relax rather than meet up. In response to this, he texted me to express his frustration with himself. I'm not sure if that's the exact phrase, but he wrote it that way, since he couldn't see me. It was a joke, of course, because my health is the most important thing, but it's still not feeling. I've talked to my mother and 2 close female friends about the text he sends me and his behavior, and they all believe he'll take his shot sooner or later. I'm not sure when. When I think about it, I don't want to hurt him if that's the case, since he's a wonderful man. In addition, I do not believe I am comfortable enough to maintain the friendship. I informed him last week that I needed a little breathing room, and he refused to accept my request. Taking into consideration the fact that he forced me to tell him what was going on, this isn't the first time he's crossed a line. In particular, I do not want him to text me on a daily basis to inquire about my well-being, which is kind and comes from a good place. I'm at a loss on what to do. Given that I'll be moving in less than 2 months, I don't think it's important to talk about it with him and risk making him feel horrible about himself. However, I can't keep making excuses for why I haven't met him yet. I'm assuming that many of you have been in a similar circumstance, and I'd want to hear your thoughts on how you handle the matter.